Guys, it's Lil Nogi Tales here, and today I'm gonna be reviewing Kurokos Basketball Season 3, Episode 4. Oh man, Akashi versus Midorima. I'm pretty hyped, especially when it gets good, but it really is one of my favorite matches since this is one thing I don't think Kuroko does often enough, and that is, put the miracles against each other. We're always seeing Sarian versus a miracle, and I mean, it's not like I don't like them, but I'm more interested in the miracles, honestly. So I would have been, you know, I would have enjoyed it more, I thought, if we saw like the miracles go at it in the Winter Cup. And we've only really seen this once before with Kisei and Naomi, and that was a pretty good match. And we're gonna see it again with Akashi versus Midorima. But let me go to before, like before the match when Kagami wakes up and just woke up next to that Alex, you know. But I can't believe he would just run away. I mean, I know that's her teacher, but come on, cuh. Meteor jam that. But after that, he went to go get his shoes since he's overplayed it. And that happens a lot, when you really just overwork any of your equipment, especially shoes, they eventually just break. And I don't know how big his foot is, but some stores have got to have his size. I mean, I don't think they're that big. He's probably like 6'2", 6'3". So I'm guessing his shoe size is like 13, or they said it was 29.5. I don't know what that is in American sizes, but they should probably have it. I've seen stores have up to like 18 to 20. But he gets his shoes from Aomine, who wants to do him a little one-on-one for his shoes. Same model and everything, Satsuki's been keeping a tab on him. And when he does play him one-on-one, they kind of split off into two groups, Aomine and Kagami, and Satsuki and Kuroko. And yeah, Satsuki basically tells Kuroko that tells him the whole event about Haizaki and Aomine and how they kind of got into that altercation. And she believes, that he's not gonna tell, since they've been on that, they kind of have like been on that team for like a couple years, and there's a sort of bond that you have with teammates when you've been with them for a couple years, even though you guys might fight, you ultimately you have each other's backs. I know Haizaki was a thug, and he probably still is, but he probably feels some of that loyalty that Satsuki was talking about, and he won't really disrupt the match. On the other side, Aomine just whoops Kagami, and he basically just gives him the shoes for free and tells them that they're gonna postpone their match until, after the Winter Cup. And he also told him, I'll lecture you a bit on something while we're at it. So we don't know what he's told Kagami yet, but he's told him something, while they're going one-on-one. Alright, enough with them. Let's talk about sorry. Let's talk about the match itself, and more specifically the players. We see the three crownless generals on one team, on Rakuzan, and I think it's a little natural and not really at times, or it might be natural for them to come over to Rakuzan since they've been winning a lot. Like they're the #1 high school basketball team, so it kind of pulls strong players towards them. It's kind of like universities in America, how they usually pull in the better talent. Like the most known universities just pull in like the better players, better prospects, better high school students. It's kind of like this, people are attracted to winning, and they caught the biggest fish, in Akashi. and they said, they gave us a brief history of Rakuzan, and I'm sure that's Akashi's type of school. Just winning, winning, winning. And speaking of Akashi, I wanted to talk about him a little bit. It's amazing. Like you see his personality here and what he can do, and how subservient everybody plays around him. You have, not just the Crownless Generals, but you also have Teiko middle school, the generation of miracles when they were all in middle school. He was able to get them under control with the contrasting personalities that they had with, the Wild Omine, Kisei, Midorima, they kind of train on their own. And Murasakibara, who's pretty lazy. And not to mention the thug Haizaki. I mean, Haizaki actually listened to him when he said, get out of my team. My team. He basically just, did what Akashi said. And that shows you how much authority he demands. And Haizaki even said it, I think, the last episode, but he is someone to fear. Even Haizaki's scared. But one of the things that really interests me, and people will probably debate this after the match, is the whole argument of Aomine versus Akashi. Because earlier we know that Aomine is the ace, which is basically you'd say the go-to guy. He's the best player, but Akashi is the captain, and a lot of people really confuse this and kind of debate around it. I don't know who, but if I definitely had to build my team around someone, it'll definitely be around a very good captain, because I'm not dissing Aomine, but Akashi, his playstyle, since he's the point guard, he basically makes everybody else, play at a higher potential, since, he's basically the center base. For Aomine, it's more like it's his own piece. He's dominating in his matchup. His role is basically to score, put the ball in the basket whenever, whatever. And Akashi is basically to function as a player coach, because point guards are basically like the coach on the court. So he has to maintain not only himself, but for the rest of the four guys, and people will do that for him, since he demands that much authority. And I know he said this before, but he's never really lost to Midorima in shogi, and he doesn't plan on losing today, but neither does Midorima. And this is one thing I kind of question about Akashi, and that is, before he said, I win at everything, victory is given to me, but look at his track record. I mean, he went to Teiko with 5, if you count Kuroko, 5 other miracles who were OP as hell. I mean, these guys are stars in their middle school, and then he moves over to Rakuzan, which is, the best high school team in history. Yeah, history. And plus there's the 3 Crownless Generals. I'm not doubting it, but I'm just saying, like, if he wanted some challenge, if he really wanted to see what it's like to lose, like he said, he wouldn't go to the most OP school, but he's probably a little afraid of losing, I mean, I feel like if he lost, he'll just go berserko. I mean, we see what he did with the scissors when someone didn't obey him, but yeah. Imagine what he'll do when he loses. If he loses, go into a scrub team and he just can't carry them all. So I guess, like he said, it's like breathing, and he would want to breathe. And by doing, going to the best schools, that's how he accomplishes, securing victory. I think he wants a bit of a challenge, but he doesn't really want, the concept of losing anywhere near in sight. And yeah, he's gonna get both today. We want to see. I want to see if Midorima can, teach that boy some, some not just manners, but some defeat. A lesson on defeat. But Midorima's track record isn't the best. I mean, against Miracles, if you Kuroko, one loss, one tie. We'll see if he gets a victory here. But enough about that. I want to talk about the match during on. And from the get go, you see that Midorima shooting threes after threes after threes already. And this is really important for a shooter. For a shooter, it's critical that you get on to a good start, because if you start shooting late in the game or like midway through, you have to start from scratch. You have to warm up, and it might be too late. What I mean is, if you're in the beginning and you're shooting, and say you get off cold or you're not making a lot of shots, you still have the time, from the rest of the game onwards to kind of correct it, and start heating up, correct yourself, see what you're doing wrong. But if you start late in the game, you might not start off hot, making all those baskets, and it might be too late. It might be too late for you to adjust. So for a shooter, it's important to get off to, start shooting already. Get off to a good start so you can follow it through with through the whole game. But Midorima, he does have unlimited range, but the drawback is he has limited stamina. So we'll see how he kind of pace himself there. As for Akashi, for a point guard in basketball, it's actually the opposite. It's important that you get your teammates going first before yourself, because think of it like this. There's four other players on the court, and usually for a point guard, you're the last resort or last option. You want to get each and every guy going, so like later on in the game, you could tell who's hot. Let's say two of the crownless generals are doing really good right now, and the other one's kind of struggling. After passing it to them several times and seeing who makes their shots, you could know who's feeling it in the game, who's doing good in the game. You could start passing the ball to them more and more, so you could have better chance at making the basket. You don't want to, like I'd say, kind of take over in the first quarter, and once they kind of stop you, everybody else hasn't really had a chance to shoot, and therefore you don't know if they're gonna do good or not. They're kind of in that neutral mode. You don't know if they're gonna be cold or hot. You want to give it to the guy who's hot, and by testing the waters for Akashi here, like he did, not really scoring, but just giving it off to everybody to make sure that they get their rhythm going. You later on the game, if he needs to, if people are getting shut out, he can take over himself. But I always see the point guard as usually he's supposed to be the last resort. But if he might not even need to be, because of what he said, I have Midorima, I have three other crownless generals with me. Midorima can't stop Akashi, Nebuya, which was the big black guy. I forgot his name. Kotaro, which was the guy who dribbled, and I forgot, but Ray, yeah, Mibuchi, yeah, but he can't match up to those. I mean, he can stop any one of the crownless generals, but it'll take his whole plate just to contain Akashi, and after that, who's gonna stop the other three? I mean, you have maybe Otsubo and Takao, but I don't see anybody else that relevant, for Midorima's team. I mean, we saw his teammate, do the dribble behind Kotaro's legs, but he just paid it back tenfold. I mean, he was making some noise with that dribble. So like his teammates are overwhelmed, but we'll see what Midorima can do. He has that Takao Midorima connection, later on, and hopefully he can slow down Akashi. And so far, it's kind of a stalemate, and that's really a bit worrisome for Shutoku, because you have your best player going off, and he's hot, and he's doing everything he can, and he only has, and he's still tied with the team who's, Rakuzen, whose best player is not really doing anything. So you're showing your ace right now for Shutoku, and then for Akashi, he's basically kind of laid back and just seeing how everything folds, and it's still a tie. He's not even on the lead. It's just tied. So that's basically my video, and hope to see you guys next episode. Bye.